He was just a janitor the world ignored. Until one night at 3 a.m., he noticed the deadly symptoms every millionaire in that tower ignored. In that moment, he saved the most powerful CEO in New York and uncovered a secret that could bring her empire crashing down. The executive elevator at Manhattan Business Tower had never stopped on the 25th floor at 3 a.m. But there stood James Washington, invisible night janitor for 15 years, watching through the tinted boardroom glass as a woman collapsed onto a mahogany table worth more than his yearly paycheck. That woman was Victoria Sterling, CEO of Sterling Industries, a name that controlled billions. Her body betrayed her, face twisted in pain, left arm lifeless, words slurred beyond recognition. James didn't hesitate. He knew those signs, the storm of a stroke. At 52, he had learned medicine not from textbooks, but from love and tragedy. His late wife, Dorothy, a neurology nurse for 2 decades, had turned every dinner table into an emergency classroom, drilling him that knowledge saves lives no matter your skin color or paycheck. Now, standing in front of a collapsing empire queen, those lessons returned like fire in his veins. For a split second, he froze. He was a janitor, the man executives didn't see unless their trash cans overflowed. She was Victoria Sterling, whose smile on a magazine cover could shift markets. Their worlds were galaxies apart. But Dorothy's voice echoed, "Symptoms don't respect class or race." James pushed the boardroom door open. "Miss Sterling, you're having a stroke. Don't speak. Listen." His voice carried the authority of a man who had lived beside crisis his entire marriage. Victoria's lips tried to protest, but panic overtook her eyes as words failed. James was already on the phone with 911, positioning her carefully to protect her brain. Ambulance to Manhattan Tower, 25th floor. Female mid-40s. Stroke symptoms, facial droop, arm weakness, slurred speech. Onset, 5 minutes ago. His clinical precision stunned the operator. Who was this janitor who spoke like a doctor? When paramedics burst in minutes later, they found the CEO stabilized, supported in the exact position that bought her time. James rattled off her symptoms like a professional. One paramedic whispered to another, "This guy knows more neurology than half the nurses I've trained with." As Victoria was rushed out, James quietly picked up his mop again, fading back into the shadows. He was just the janitor, the invisible man who kept the tower spotless while the rich slept in glass castles. What James didn't know was that his quiet heroism that night would set off a chain of events even Dorothy could never have predicted. And for Victoria Sterling, the truth she was about to uncover, about medicine, prejudice, and what competence really meant, would shake her empire to the ground. If you believe knowledge can shatter the walls money builds, subscribe now, because this story won't stop here. James was about to uncover a conspiracy that reached higher than any skyscraper in Manhattan. The next morning, James reported to work expecting silence. Instead, he found a warning note taped to his locker like a knife. Unauthorized use of executive elevator. Inappropriate access to restricted floors. Signed, Wilson Carter, head of security, the man who measured his worth by how much misery he could spread. 15 years of spotless work, and this was his reward for saving a life. The irony burned. In this corporate jungle, doing the right thing was a crime if the wrong man did it. But James wasn't bothered by the paper. It was the timing. How had Carter learned so fast? Medical records were confidential. Paramedics had no reason to report back. Someone was watching Victoria closely. Too closely. Later that morning, James caught sight of Dr. Patterson, Victoria's personal physician, arriving late with a face full of panic. Through the glass doors, James saw him arguing sharply with Carter. Dorothy's voice cut through his mind like thunder. "Jamie, the first question in neurology is never why now, but who benefits if this person can no longer work?" James had assumed Victoria's collapse was corporate stress finally breaking her. But what he saw in Patterson's face wasn't relief that she survived. It was dread. Real doctors celebrated survival. Patterson looked like a man who had lost. And that thought chilled James more than any warning slip could. By afternoon, his phone rang with the last thing he expected. Victoria Sterling wanted to see him, alone. When James entered her office, the woman who once ruled boardrooms now sat fragile but sharp-eyed. "James, isn't it? Sit down." Her tone wasn't corporate. It was human. Last night, you saved my life. My doctor says without you, I'd be gone. James shook his head. I only did what anyone decent would do, Miss Sterling. She studied him, curious. The paramedics said your medical knowledge was unusual. Where did you learn all that? James hesitated, talking about Dorothy still cut like glass. But something in Victoria's expression wasn't small talk. It was trust. My wife was a neurology nurse. 20 years in Chicago General. She taught me to see what others overlook. She's been gone 5 years now. For the first time, Victoria's steel softened. I'm sorry, she whispered. Then her eyes hardened again. James, tell me the truth. Did what happened to me seem natural to you? The question struck like lightning. The woman whose emails could shift billions was asking a janitor for medical advice. And not just advice, she suspected foul play. James tread carefully. With respect, Miss Sterling, that's a matter for your physician. Her reply came too sharp, too fast. Dr. Patterson says it was stress. He gave me sedatives. Told me to take a vacation. Dorothy's ghost screamed in his head. Sedatives for a stroke victim? That wasn't incompetence, it was malpractice. Or worse. James leaned forward, choosing his words like scalpel cuts. Did you have warning signs? Headaches, dizziness, confusion? Victoria's silence was heavy. Then, slowly, she admitted, yes. Repeated headaches. Moments of confusion. Patterson called it stress. James kept his face calm, but inside he was burning. Any competent neurologist would have ordered tests immediately. The fact that Patterson hadn't meant one of two things: unforgivable incompetence, or something far more sinister. When James left her office, Carter was already in the hallway, watching like a wolf. The smirk on his face said it all. We know you're meddling where you don't belong. That night, while cleaning deserted offices, Dorothy's words echoed louder than ever. Jamie, in medicine, there are no coincidences. When patterns look too perfect, it means someone is pulling the strings. What if Victoria Sterling's stress-induced stroke wasn't stress at all? What if it was cold-blooded sabotage designed to erase her? James couldn't shake the pieces in front of him. The warning on his locker, Carter whispering with Dr. Patterson, both men knowing details no outsider could possibly know. For 15 years, James had been invisible, the janitor no one saw. But invisibility, he was realizing, wasn't a weakness. It was power. People with titles and corner offices never noticed the quiet man mopping floors, and that blindness was about to be his weapon. For the next 2 weeks, James moved like a ghost through the tower, cleaning, sweeping, vanishing, all while watching. He saw Dr. Patterson slip into Carter's office 3 times a week, always clutching a brown leather medical briefcase. That briefcase never left Carter's sight. One night, James accidentally left his cart near a half-open door and froze as whispers drifted through. Patterson's voice, low and sharp. The tests show worsening cardiovascular damage. But I'm adjusting the official reports, keeping them normal. Carter's reply, perfect. With the vitamins, his voice dripped sarcasm. We have maybe 6 months left. The next attack will finish her. The words hit James like a sledgehammer. This wasn't negligence. This was poisoning. Dorothy had warned him years ago. The darkest medical crimes are committed by those sworn to heal. Now it was happening before his eyes. And it was happening to the most powerful woman in the building. The missing puzzle piece arrived from an unlikely ally. Marcus Johnson, the air conditioning tech, ex-military, 3 kids to feed. He pulled James aside during shift change. Man, you need to hear this, Marcus whispered. I was working ducks on the 25th floor. Carter was on the phone about Sterling stock, buying big before leadership changes. He knows something. In that instant, the conspiracy snapped into place. Carter wasn't just helping Patterson. He was orchestrating the entire downfall. If Victoria died, Carter, security chief and emergency board member, would step into power, even briefly. With inside knowledge, he could bend the stock market to his will. Marcus, James asked carefully, you still got military contacts? People who know evidence, documentation, chain of command. Marcus studied him like a soldier reading a battlefield. Depends. What? That's when James told him everything. Victoria's collapse. The poisoning. The whispers. The conspiracy. Marcus listened like a combat officer, asking precise questions, piecing tactics together. Finally, his verdict. That's attempted murder and financial fraud on a massive scale. But proof, James. We'll need proof. Not yet, James said. But I know how to get it. And so they built a plan, silent, simple, deadly effective. Marcus would use his building clearance to slip recording devices into Carter's and Patterson's offices. James would handle the timing, routines, blind spots only a janitor of 15 years could map. One thing bugs me, Marcus muttered as they studied ventilation blueprints. Why haven't they fired you already? A hero janitor who saves the boss. Too risky to keep around. James grimly nodded. Better to keep me invisible. Watch me. They think I'm too uneducated to understand. Carter and Patterson's arrogance was their fatal flaw. They laughed about him behind closed doors, calling him the lucky janitor. They had no idea just how dangerous invisibility could be. Their first test came on a Monday night. As James polished marble floors like always, Marcus crawled silently through the ducts, planting tiny microphones and cameras with military precision. In 45 minutes, he had built a surveillance web tighter than any detective agency could dream of. We're live, Marcus whispered into their tiny communicator. Now we wait for them to hang themselves. They didn't wait long. By Wednesday, the trap caught gold. A full conversation, recorded clear as day. Patterson detailed how he'd upped Victoria's dosage. Carter laughed. The press will eat this alive. Young CEO, killed by corporate stress. Perfect smokescreen for transition. The two men chuckled over the national sympathy storm that would follow. James played the recording 3 times, every repeat hardening his resolve. Dorothy had always said, knowledge without action is complicity. This was no longer survival. This was war. James organized the evidence with steady hands. 3 flash drives packed with 92 hours of recordings, forged medical files, and the beginnings of a financial trail. Marcus had gone further than James imagined. His military network included forensic accountants who tracked Carter's trades, 341 suspicious transactions, each time to Victoria's symptoms. The case wasn't just strong, it was nuclear. But James didn't just want to hand it to the police. No, Carter and Patterson needed to be destroyed in a way they'd never forget. Phase 1 began at the monthly Sterling Industries Executive Board meeting. The place where Carter thought he was untouchable. The place where the janitor they mocked as invisible was about to become the most dangerous man in the room. Victoria, still fragile but dutifully following the regimen prescribed by Dr. Patterson, sat at the head of the long mahogany table as 15 executives dissected quarterly reports. To her right, Carter exuded the smug composure of a man convinced he controlled every future that mattered. The door opened quietly. James slipped in with his cleaning card, as he had for over a decade. But this time, his role wasn't just janitorial. As he emptied trash bins with practiced discretion, he slid a sealed envelope onto Victoria's stack of papers. When she unfolded it, she saw a single chilling line. The vitamins you're taking aren't vitamins. Check the bottle. Someone who cares. Victoria's expression shifted almost imperceptibly, but Carter, lost in financial projections, noticed nothing. From the corner, James studied her with the precision honed from years of invisibility. He saw the exact moment she realized something was terribly, fatally wrong. 2 hours later, the second act unfolded. Dr. Patterson arrived for his routine checkup, unaware that a directional microphone was hidden in Victoria's desk lamp and that Marcus, from a van across the street, was capturing every word. "How are your stress symptoms?" Patterson asked with saccharine concern. "You've been taking your supplements as directed?" "Religiously," Victoria answered, though a thread of suspicion laced her voice, making Patterson shift uneasily in his chair. Then she added, "But I'm considering a second opinion." A flicker of panic crossed the doctor's face, caught perfectly by the hidden camera. "That won't be necessary," he stammered. "Your results show improvement. Another doctor would only complicate things." Victoria's eyes hardened. She opened a drawer and produced the envelope James had left, along with the bottle. "Curious," she said coolly, "because I received this. What if I send these for an independent lab test?" Patterson paled. "Victoria, you can't take anonymous notes seriously. It's sabotage." A disgruntled employee. Her voice cut through his excuses like glass. "Then you won't mind if I test them." His protests faltered. "Well, of course not, but it's a waste of time." Victoria raised her hand, silencing him. "Doctor, I've learned one rule in corporate life. When someone insists I not check something, that's exactly when I must check it. Phase 3 was executed with military precision. While Patterson scrambled to dissuade her, Marcus was already delivering evidence files to the FBI, the SEC, the State Medical Board, and the Chicago Tribune. James had insisted Victoria deserved to know the truth before the world did. And so, on Friday at 5 p.m., he knocked on her office door carrying a briefcase heavy with revelations. "May I come in, Mrs. Sterling?" he asked. Victoria looked up, instantly recognizing the janitor who had saved her twice before. "Of course, James. In fact, I want to thank you. But how did you know about the supplements?" James placed the briefcase gently on her desk. "What I'm about to show you will shock you, but you need to see it before the headlines due tomorrow." For 45 minutes, James laid out the pieces like a prosecutor. Recordings of Carter and Patterson conspiring over her slow poisoning. Forged medical charts. Financial records proving Carter's stock manipulations tied directly to her decline. Victoria listened in mounting silence, her face shifting from disbelief to horror to an icy fury James recognized as the steel of a woman used to wielding power. "They thought I was just a janitor," James said quietly. "A man lucky enough to spot a stroke, but too ignorant to understand the rest." Victoria studied the files with the same intensity she gave billion-dollar mergers. "James, you didn't just save my life. You exposed a conspiracy." Saturday morning brought the reckoning. Carter walked into the office for Victoria's emergency meeting and froze. Waiting inside were FBI agents, SEC investigators, and a state medical board official. Victoria sat at the head of the table, her expression cold and sharp. "Wilson," she said evenly, "meet the people very interested in your extracurricular activities." Carter's bravado cracked instantly, caught on hacked security feeds James and Marcus monitored. "Victoria, this is ridiculous." "No," she cut him off. "They're not here for accusations. They're here with arrest warrants for attempted murder, fraud, and market manipulation." As Special Agent Martinez recited his rights, Carter's mask shattered. Across the city, Dr. Patterson was cuffed in his office while frantically trying to erase files. Phase 4 was the most devastating and the most glorious. Monday morning, the Chicago Tribune splashed the headline across its front page. "Janitor hero exposes plot to murder CEO." The story electrified the nation. A working-class black man using knowledge inherited from his late wife to save a wealthy white executive, and in doing so, dismantling a corporate conspiracy. The climax came when Victoria held a press conference before dozens of cameras. She validated James's entire account, then announced his immediate promotion. Director of Corporate Safety and Integrity at Sterling Industries, with a $200,000 salary. "Competence and integrity," she declared, "don't come from degrees or status. They come from character. And James Washington has it in abundance." From their prison cells, Carter and Patterson watched the broadcast in stunned humiliation. Carter, once a power broker, was now an inmate facing 25 years. His fortune confiscated, his arrogance worthless. Patterson, stripped of his license, peddled medical equipment for scraps, his reputation permanently obliterated. Meanwhile, James sat in his new office on the 26th floor, the skyline of Chicago spread before him. The man once invisible now led a team of fraud investigators with a multi-million-dollar budget. On his desk, a silver-framed photo of Dorothy reminded him why he fought. Her legacy lived on in the scholarship fund bearing her name, already transforming lives of low-income students into future doctors. Under Victoria's leadership, Sterling Industries became a national model of corporate integrity. Independent medical checks, anonymous reporting channels, strict anti-discrimination safeguards. The company's stock price tripled. Recognition flooded in. Congress requested James's testimony on reform. Books and documentaries chronicled his story. Letters poured in from ordinary workers, inspired to trust their own knowledge, to resist injustice, to believe that competence had no class or color. James looked at Dorothy's photo one evening, smiling faintly. "You know what she'd say?" he asked Victoria. "That medicine saved more than a life. It saved the truth," she replied. And she was right. The lesson burned through the story like fire. True intelligence isn't defined by diplomas or titles. It's defined by courage, character, and the relentless pursuit of truth. James Washington had proven it to the world. Today, when workers face discrimination, they whisper the same question: what would James Washington do? The answer echoes like a battle cry: observe, learn, document, act. Because sometimes, the sweetest revenge is a success your oppressors never believed you were capable of. He was just a janitor they ignored, but his courage exposed a conspiracy that shook an empire. If this story gave you chills, let your voice be heard in the comments. And for more stories of power, justice, and the unseen heroes among us, subscribe now to Black Nation Strength. Because sometimes, the people the world overlooks are the ones who change it forever.